The forest does not wait for its victims. It does not lure them. It simply exists, vast, ancient, and indifferent, stretching across miles of untamed wilderness where sunlight struggles to reach the ground. In this world, the living do not walk with confidence. They trespass. They cross terrain whispered about in local bars and campfire stories, where legends bleed into reality and travelers disappear without a trace. This is where the story begins, not with monsters leaping from the darkness, but with the quiet weight of isolation settling over a place humans were never meant to conquer. Wrong Turn is a film shaped by the fear of the unknown. But beneath the surface, it is also a reflection of something older, the primal instinct that emerges when civilization's walls crumble. Part 1 of this story does not yet reveal the monstrosities waiting within the trees. Instead, it builds an atmosphere where dread collects slowly, like morning fog settling across forgotten roads. It starts with a single mistake, one wrong turn taken by a man who believes the wilderness is simply a detour rather than a threat. The protagonist journeys with a calm confidence, unaware that life can pivot in a single moment. He drives through the rural Appalachians, expecting only temporary delay, not a rupture in the fabric of safety he has always taken for granted. Around him, the forest stretches endlessly, swallowing the horizon in tangled vines and towering trunks. The road grows narrow, cracked, and unwelcoming. It is a landscape that warns without words, yet he keeps going, the engine humming like a heartbeat too steady for the danger that lies ahead. The deeper he travels, the more the world around him shifts. Civilization loosens its grip. Radio signals fade. Maps become useless. The loneliness of the road creates the first pulse of unease, not loud or sudden, but subtle, like the feeling of being watched. This is how Wrong Turn succeeds as a horror story, not with cheap tricks, but with the realization that nature itself can become an accomplice to terror. When the crash comes, it is violent but strangely intimate. Metal twists, glass shatters, the world spins, and in that moment, his journey merges with another group already caught in the forest's grip. They are hikers seeking escape from the pressures of daily life, believing nature offers peace rather than peril. Their struggles, their arguments, and their moments of hope evaporate the instant they witness the aftermath of destruction on the road. The collision is not a mere accident. It is a convergence of fate. The forest remains completely silent afterwards, as though observing the chaos with cold detachment. The injured, shaken individuals gather themselves, unaware that the broken vehicles are not the true danger. The traps hidden within the trees, cleverly camouflaged and crafted by hands familiar with violence, tell a different story. Someone or something has claimed this land with expertise only possible through generations of ruthless survival. The group wanders deeper into the forest seeking help. Their footsteps fall against the soft earth like echoes swallowed by the trees. The sunlight dwindles, filtered into thin strands that tremble before disappearing. Fear begins to whisper between them, an instinct they try to suppress but cannot ignore. They notice unnatural signs, bones hung from branches, rusted metal remnants, shredded clothing caught on thorns. Each detail is a clue that the forest is not abandoned, but inhabited by unseen predators. Wrong Turn's brilliance lies in how it transforms the simplest sound, a snapping twig, a gust of wind, into an omen. The characters move with growing awareness, each one sensing that the forest is not merely alive, but watching. Their fear becomes the audience's fear, blending psychological tension with visceral dread. The movie does not rush toward terror. It pulls the viewer deeper, step by step, until turning back becomes impossible. As the group stumbles upon a small, isolated cabin, the atmosphere fractures. The structure stands crooked, as though leaning into the earth for support. Its windows are dark, its porch littered with objects that do not belong in a peaceful home. Old tools, animal traps, blood-stained rags. The characters approach it hesitantly, hoping for help, yet unable to ignore the warning carved into the land itself. Inside the cabin, the truth blooms like a nightmare. Human remains, mutilated limbs, grotesque trophies of past victims. The room reeks of death and decay. It becomes clear that the inhabitants of this place are not merely hunters, but creatures shaped by years of isolation, mutated, merciless, and completely adapted to the wilderness. The revelation sends shockwaves through the group, transforming fear into panic as they scramble to escape. But the forest offers no refuge. It is a maze where every root, every shadow, every distant echo becomes a threat. The hunters return, moving with terrifying precision, their presence felt before seen. They stalk with the patience of predators familiar with their territory, using the terrain to their advantage. They do not run, they glide silently like phantoms shaped from the soil itself. Part 1 of this retelling focuses not only on the unfolding terror, but on the psychological unraveling of each character. Wrong Turn has always been more than a survival horror film. It is a brutal examination of what humans become when stripped of protection and forced to confront something primal. The characters transform from carefree travelers into desperate survivors, guided not by logic, but by instinct. Their emotions, fear, regret, anger, determination, layer the narrative with depth. The suspense escalates as the hunters draw closer. Their silhouettes flicker briefly behind trees, their movements almost inhuman. The forest becomes a living trap, each path leading toward danger rather than safety. The group's unity begins to crack under pressure, their choices driven by panic rather than strategy. And still, the forest remains silent, as if feeding on the chaos and fear erupting within its depths. Facts about Wrong Turn enhance the atmosphere of Part 1. The film was inspired by real Appalachian legends, stories of isolated families who lived far from society and adapted in ways that blurred the line between human and animal. These influences make the setting feel authentic, grounded in regional folklore rather than exaggerated fantasy. Budget constraints forced the filmmakers to rely on practical effects and realistic environments, which only intensified the gritty tone. Awards eventually recognized the film's makeup design, practical gore effects, and ability to build suspense without relying on excessive CGI. Critics noted its raw, claustrophobic energy, a hallmark of early 2000s horror that set it apart from supernatural or creature-focused films of the era. As Part 1 closes, the group finds themselves surrounded, outnumbered, and lost within a forest that devours hope as quickly as it erases footprints. The hunters emerge from the shadows with grotesque confidence. Their every movement convey one message: in this forest, there is no rescue coming. The night settles in, draping the world in suffocating darkness. And as the survivors cling to whatever courage they can muster, the forest watches with ancient indifference. Their story has only begun. The horrors waiting in Part 2 are darker, more relentless, and more revealing, not only of the hunters, but of the humans fighting desperately to stay alive.
If Part 1 explored the setup, the tension, and the glory unraveling of the story, then Part 2 goes into the deeper layers, what this film means, how it was made, why it became iconic, and the hidden details that most viewers miss. Because Wrong Turn 2003 isn't just a slasher movie set in the woods. It's a commentary about civilization versus wilderness, arrogance versus survival, and how one single wrong decision can shatter a life forever. So let's go deeper. Section 1. character analysis and motivations. Chris Flynn, the accidental survivor. Chris starts as a normal medical student, a guy with a career, a path, a plan. But the forest strips him bare. No identity, no purpose, just instinct. His character arc is fascinating. He begins as a polite, educated young man. But by the end, he becomes almost animalistic, using violence, traps, and brute force to survive. His transformation is a commentary on when civilization collapses, instinct takes over. Chris is proof that the forest doesn't care about intelligence. It cares about who adapts the fastest. Jessie Burlingame is easily the strongest character in the movie. She thinks fast, moves smart, never panics, and understands the forest better than Chris does. She represents a metaphor. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it survives quietly. Jessie becomes the emotional core of the film. A girl whose friends were slaughtered, yet she refuses to give up. She's the true hero. The Cannibal Brothers, One Eye, Sawtooth, Three Finger. Most horror villains are supernatural, but Wrong Turn's killers are realistic, which makes them terrifying. Each one has a distinct personality. Three Finger. Childlike laugh. Lightning fast. Enjoys the hunt. The most iconic of the franchise. Sawtooth. The strategist. More quiet. Brutal strength. Acts like the big brother. One Eye. The tracker. Good aim. Skilled with weapons. Together, they form a twisted family unit that's almost efficient, like wolves hunting prey. The film shows them as a result of isolation, not pure evil, which makes them even scarier. Section 2. Deep thematic breakdown. Wrong Turn isn't only about gore. It has hidden layers that many fans miss. Let's break them down. Theme 1. Nature doesn't forgive. The entire movie happens because Chris takes a shortcut. One wrong turn. One decision. One moment. The forest punishes him for it. The message is clear. When humans overestimate themselves, nature humbles them. Theme 2. Rural versus urban divide. The cannibals represent isolation, neglect, decay, generational mutation. They are the result of society ignoring the forgotten corners of the country. Meanwhile, Chris and the others represent modern life, technology, education, urban identity. When these two worlds collide, only survival decides the winner. Theme 3. Survival strips away morality. By the end, Chris kills. Jessie kills. Both do things they never imagined. The film's message is, survival doesn't choose morality. Survival chooses the one who adapts. This realism is why Wrong Turn feels so raw and intense. Section 4. Behind the scenes and production facts. Here comes the juicy part. The things fans never get to hear unless they dig deep. Fact 1. Real forest, real danger. The film was shot in Ontario, Canada, with real dense forests. Crew members reported getting lost, bears appearing on set, equipment damaged by weather, actors freezing during night shoots. Filming in the real wilderness added anxious fear, realistic movement, and genuine exhaustion. Fact 2. The cabin interior was built from scratch. The cannibal cabin was so disturbing that many crew members refused to eat lunch inside it. It had real animal bones, old rusty tools, handmade furniture, and actual rotting meat props. The set designers wanted viewers to smell the danger, and it worked. Fact 3. Three Fingers' actor was a gymnast. This allowed him to climb trees, jump silently, move unnaturally, and perform many of his own stunts. That's why his movement feels so creepy. It's real human flexibility, not CGI. Fact 4. No big studio believed in the film. Originally, Wrong Turn struggled for funding. Studios said, "Backwoods slashers won't sell. People don't want cannibal villains anymore. Too violent for mainstream." But once the test audience saw the rough cut, they loved it. The movie became a success and launched a 7-film franchise. Section 5. Best Scenes Explained Deeply. Let's break down the most iconic moments, shot by shot and meaning by meaning. Scene 1. The Watchtower Attack. This is one of the greatest tension scenes in early 2000s horror. Why it works? Elevation gives false safety. Wide forest shots emphasize isolation. Silence before chaos. When the cannibals start climbing, it's not just an attack. It's a statement, "You cannot escape us, not even above the trees." The burning of the tower symbolizes hope collapsing, civilization destroyed, the beginning of pure panic. Scene 2. The sleeping scene, the branch trap. Jessie wakes Chris before he steps into a trap. This shows her survival instincts. But more importantly, the branch trap is symbolic. It represents one misstep can kill you. Every moment in the forest becomes a gamble. Every step matters. Scene 3. The final explosion. When Chris drives the truck into the cabin and blows it up, it symbolizes civilization hits back. A truck, a human invention, destroys the wilderness predators. But the ending hints, you can never truly kill the forest's monsters. Three Fingers' survival sets up the sequels. Section 6. Controversy and censorship. Wrong Turn faced major censorship in Germany, Australia, UK, and several Asian countries. Reasons? Cannibalism, gore scenes with extended shots, brutal deaths, dismemberment visuals. Some countries demanded shorter gore sequences, removal of bone crunch sounds, cuts in autopsy and trap scenes. The violence was considered too realistic for early 2000 standards. Section 7. Film festivals, nominations, and awards. Wrong Turn was not made for awards, but it still received recognition. Awards and nominations highlights. Best Horror Makeup, Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, nominated. Best Kill Scene Compilation, Rue Morgan, winner, fan vote. Best Backwoods Horror Revival Award. Cult Classic Certification, Horror Hound Convention. Not mainstream awards, but major respect in the horror community. Section 8. Amazing Trivia and Facts Expanded. Here are more deep facts fans love. The blood was a special mixture that attracted insects, causing problems during shoots. The cannibal actors had to sit hours in makeup every morning, sometimes starting at 3 a.m. Eliza Dushku, Jessie, did many of her own stunts. The word cannibal is never said in the movie, not even once. The script originally had a snowy forest, but was changed